Let's get to the card here. Survivor Series 1988. Of course, we're right here. Thanksgiving is upon us. So this makes sense for us to go back and talk about, and what a good time to pick up where we started, with you coming to the company. Let's go through the card. Brutus Beefcake and the Blue Blazer and Sam Houston and the Ultimate Warrior and Jim Brunzell. What a cast of characters that is. That's one team. And they're going to take on the Honky Tonk Man, Bad News Brown, Greg Valentine, Ron Bass, and Danny Davis. They go 17 minutes and 50 seconds. Meltzer's going to refer to the Ultimate Warrior and the Observer as the Anabolic Warrior. The match gets 2 stars. What did you, we haven't spent a lot of time talking, you and I, about Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Of course, we know it won't be too long, and he's going to be pretty over here for the company. What is your experience like in this era working with Ed Leslie?
Well, he was pretty much glued to Hogan most of the time when he was there. I can tell you this, I don't remember that match, which I'm pretty sure I didn't see it because I was probably stretching and getting ready for our match. But that cast of characters, probably when it was all said and done, it was probably the indoor record for lack of bumps.
Honky Tonk Man, pretty famous for that. You and I haven't spent any time talking about Honky Tonk Man. The Wayne Ferris character, Honky Tonk Man, is going to get all kinds of heat. Bruce Pritchard is even going to refer to him as White Hot once upon a time for the WWF. You were there during that run. What do you remember about the Honky Tonk Man character and fans' reactions to him?
Now, was Bruce talking about he was white hot with the audience?
I think it was a heat standpoint. He had a lot of heat with the audience, but maybe you're about to tell us he had a lot of heat with the boys.
Well, no, I mean, he did his own thing. He didn't take a lot of bumps. He was entertaining, and that was at a time that Vince loved entertainment. Not that he does it today, but Honky Tonk was good with that character, and he could avoid taking a lot of bumps. He would go out and entertain you and to do his thing, and he was definitely different. And it was, having the Elvis look and all that stuff. The whole thing, the whole gag was, he put his heart into it. He did the best he can do with it. It got over, and he was able to make a nice living being the Honky Tonk Man.
Let's follow up on another guy here that we haven't spent a ton of time talking about. Ron Bass. He's an old school guy, and a lot of fans remember his angle from earlier in the year. I think it was this year, maybe it was 89 with Brutus Beefcake. But you probably knew Ron from the Territory days, right?
Well, Ron was, right on his final run with Crockett when I got there. He was partners with Black Bart. JJ was their manager. That's how early it was. So this was early 85. Ron was a big man. You took a look at Ron Bass. He was a big physical guy, and had a lot of experience, had been around, worked in, Tampa and probably God knows how many other territories. Big, solid, deep voice, good promo voice. And I really didn't get to know Ron that much. What I did get to know, he was a gentleman and a nice guy. Always, spoke, and didn't seem like that he had any worries about his position or what your position was going to be, or if you were a threat or any of those things. So really came across as just a gentleman.
Let's talk about Bad News Brown. He's just going to walk out of this match and get counted out. Meltzer would say, if you'll notice, every wrestler that means anything to Titan was quote unquote protected without having to do a job except Jake Roberts. And they put him in the center spotlight after losing his match. Since Bad News has a feud with Randy Savage upcoming, he couldn't do a job here. We don't have to talk about the creative necessarily, but I do want to talk about Bad News Brown. He has, an interesting story to say the least. What do you remember about sharing a locker room with Bad News?
In a capsule, what is that story?
Well, just, he had a reputation for being a badass. and he didn't lose a lot on TV, and he would argue some finishes occasionally. And he once upon a time had an incident with Andre the Giant and called Andre out, and Andre backed off, and he just had a reputation for being someone you didn't fuck with.
That's what we always heard. And we certainly weren't going to test it. There was no reason to test it. In those days, heels were heels and baby faces were baby faces, and you kept to your, whatever your designation was. Never traveled with him, would see him in the locker room. He had that game face, he kept to himself, did his own thing. We always heard he was real badass. So, and in those days, the guys that were really the Bad News Browns, the Hakus, the Barbarians, the real badasses never barked. You never heard a peep out of them. They were never loud until somebody, pushed their button, and then you knew for damn sure they were in the room. I didn't hear the Andre story. That's one that I would really like to hear from somebody that was there or has good knowledge of it, because nobody messed with Andre. Period.